Welcome back. Today I'm going to try to solve some chess puzzles because I need the work, and hopefully you can learn something from this too. If not, maybe you can try to spot the answers before I do. Okay, here we are playing with the white pieces. Our opponent has just moved this pawn forward, challenging our pawn. We do have a couple of, not a couple, we have one check, but I don't know how good that is. I do know that if the king takes it, then we will have a follow-up check with our knight here. But if the king doesn't take it, it would just move over after our check. So I'm not sure if that's good. We also can bring our bishop out to threaten their queen, but that also doesn't look good because of the pawn can simply move forward. However, if the pawn moves forward, we can capture it. So yeah, so I really don't know here. I don't have any idea whether we should take this pawn or try to capture on h7, which is check, or to jump the knight in, which threatens, which opens the path for our queen to come through. I have no idea. So what do we do? What do we do? I think if we don't move this bishop now, it's going to end up getting trapped pretty soon. So that's what's leading me to the idea that this is best, but it could very well be wrong. These kinds of puzzles, the ones that are on the board right now, are the ones that I'm weakest at. I think the ones that are just out of the opening, transitioning into the middle game. There doesn't seem to be an obvious tactic to me. And these are also the parts of games where I'm the weakest in my experience. I tend to do fairly well out of the opening because I have looked at quite a few opening lines and I guess memorized so many moves out. So usually by move 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I'm doing fine. It tends to be these positions where we're on move 10 or 12 or something that I start losing the advantage and then gain it later. I'm going to take the pawn just because I don't know what else to do and I don't want to spend any more time on this puzzle and then still get it wrong. Okay, that was it, and they did take. See, I was worried that they weren't going to take, and then I wasn't going to have a follow-up move here. I think here the follow-up has to be the check with the knight, and then when the king moves out of check, I will have the follow-up check here. However, what if the king moves out of check to here or here, rather than going back? Because if the king goes back, and I move my queen out to there, then I'm threatening checkmate down here. But if I check with the knight and the king moves forward to one of these squares, then I can't put my queen over here. And then I don't know what to do next. I could check here if the king moved up this way, I suppose. But I'm going to check with the knight just because I'm not sure what else to do. Okay, the queen sacrificed itself for the knight, so that must have been a mating sequence that we had. And I got lucky on that one because, as I said, I had no idea what to do. There are no themes listed for this puzzle. I need to shrink my camera view there so that you can see that there are no themes listed. And this puzzle was rated 13/17, so I should have had no trouble with that. Okay, I guess instinctively got it right. Now here, I can check by moving my king back. It would be a discovered check with my rook. And I think I bumped my microphone. So that looks good to me because the king would not be able to get out this way. and would not, I think at that point the king would have to go back, and then we would take that check. I mean, that rook, which would be checkmate, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, they did block with that one, knowing that it is about to be checkmate. And the computer tends to, I'm going to lower that sound a little bit. The computer tends to delay mate as long as possible, even if it's obvious. So I got that one quickly enough that I got 14 points for it. That one also does not have a theme listed. Very interesting. Okay, next puzzle. I am in check. I have to move out of check. I can block the check with the pawn. But I think if I do that, they will move this pawn forward. I think I could also just move out of check any number of other ways. So I have to determine what's best. I don't think this is best because I will just lose my bishop, and I don't want to do that. What are my choices? My choices are to move forward, which I don't like because it blocks this bishop, or to move back to one of these two squares, b2 or c2, or the pawn move that I already mentioned. If I move the pawn and they attack the pawn with their b pawn, I could defend the pawn kind of this way, I guess, with my bishop. If they take it, then I would take back. And if they took my pawn, then I would take backward this way. Plus, it's moving a pawn forward. So I'm going to try that. Okay, that was it. Okay, now I have a couple of choices. I have check with my bishop, and since my other bishop is guarding this getaway square, the king would have to go to one of the sides. But then I can't follow up, especially if it goes back here. So I think I should just go ahead and take this pawn. Or what about once I check and the king moves out of check, I move this pawn forward, threatening the bishop. And the bishop then has nowhere to go down this diagonal because my bishop will be hitting here. My pawn and king are guarding all of those squares. So I think then the bishop would move back. And if it moved back that way, I would advance my pawn further toward promotion. And of course, the king would be too far away to do anything about it. If the bishop went back this way, I think I could also advance my pawn at that point, and it would be protected by this bishop and be ready to advance, effectively putting that one out of commission. Maybe. Then I could take the pawn. So I think the check is the first move, and then the pawn move is next. But I could be wrong. It could just be taking the pawn. What would be more important here, taking the pawn or preparing mine to advance? I think I'm going to say taking the pawn, now that I've thought about it. Wait, this pawn's about to advance. I have to be very careful. I didn't even see that pawn down here. Oh my goodness. So I have to be very careful about that. Oh my goodness. I missed that in the beginning. Because part of my plan here with this pawn was that I would be able to defend it with my bishop, but then they would have taken my bishop and they would have promoted. So should I get in front of it? They're trying to get me off this diagonal right now. Okay. Wow. I wish if I had seen that before the first move, I might have just moved out of check, and then I would have gotten this wrong. But yeah, I believe right now that my opponent's plan is to move their bishop here, trying to get me off this diagonal, because my bishop is the only thing that's keeping that pawn from promoting. So I think, let's see, wait, if I take the pawn, then they will advance their c pawn blocking me from guarding this. So I think that's not good. Okay. Then I need to check. Yeah, definitely not take the pawn, because then I would be blocked from guarding that promotion square down there on h1. So I need to check. And then when the king moves out of check, I need to push this pawn closer toward my promotion square. If this bishop comes here trying to get my bishop, wow. Then it would win. Yes, I can't stop that. Yes, I could take their bishop. Right? If we check, the king moves out, push the pawn, their bishop goes here. If I take their bishop, I'm still guarding that square, but once they take me, then I can push. Maybe. And then they promote, and then I will promote with check. Maybe. Let's try it. Oh, it ended there. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I got lucky again, because I was definitely not certain about what to do in that situation. Oh my goodness. Okay, and I am at 11 minutes, so let's click next. So I've gotten lucky on 2 of these puzzles that I had no idea what to do. All right, here my opponent has 2 rooks coming down the middle. My king is stuck in the middle. Their queen is coming here, but my knight guards that square. Oh, but their rook guards that square too. I think I have to check right now, and when they take my rook, then I will have to checkmate. Not checkmate over here. It would not be checkmate because their queen can block. But then I would take their queen, and I would have gotten a pawn and a queen for 2 rooks. That's even. That's even material. So I don't know if that's good or not. But if I take the rook over first to avoid that, well, number 1, they can still block here with the queen. But that would be better for me, because then I would just lose the rook for the queen instead of 2 rooks. But I was thinking, if I moved the rook over first, they have other options, like they can check me right away. And I'd be running out of options pretty quick. So I probably have to check first. Wait, they did that. I took with my knight. Remember, assuming that my rook is already over here in the corner. Took that with my knight. Then they would take, I assume, with their queen here on d7. Then I would be forced up there or down here. Either if I wouldn't go down because they could go there and mate. But even if I went up, they could come here and I would have to get out this way. And then they could go there. And that would be mate. So yeah, I think if I brought my rook over first, it would be mate. So I'm just going to take the pawn now. That was wrong. Okay, well, this is how we learn. So I am going to, what was the solution? To take the knight. Okay. That went a little too far for me, but let's go to the analysis board and go back up it seems to all be showing on the screen. Okay, so the first move was their king getting out of check. Okay, I had to take the knight first. It's the only, well, okay, the move that I made is not losing though. You can see from Stockfish's recommendations up there, I would still have a slight advantage once I took that pawn. The king would have to take, then I would take. They would have to go there and I would take back and I would still have a slight advantage, but not as big of an advantage. A very big advantage for me to take this knight first. Now they have several moves that work for them, but the one that Stockfish likes the best is taking back. And then I would take back with my queen, effectively getting a knight and a rook for a rook. But then they would check. Here is their best move slightly. And I would just move out of check. But I have to move out of check here. Because I think obviously this would be losing. And moving out of check to... Okay, you can't move out of check there. So what other options are there? Oh, there's this option. Well, that just loses the queen straight away. But I mean, that one does too. So yeah, moving to here was the end of the puzzle. Okay, so I didn't see the rook taking the knight. That's fine. I'm going to miss some of these. Let's continue. All right. I can just take the bishop. I see that. But often there's something else. And I don't know if there is something else here. I cannot, I mean, I guess I could attack the queen, but then wouldn't the knight just take me? So I don't think that's it. I think it's just this. If they take my knight, I will take back with the pawn, I believe. In a game, I would automatically take this, but because it's a puzzle, I'm hesitating. Because so many puzzles, it's not the obvious move. One thing I do wonder is about moving this pawn forward, which threatens mate. What defense would they have against that? They can't take it because that pawn is pinned. They could move that pawn forward, but then I would go here and I'm still threatening checkmate. So maybe that's it. Threatening checkmate is... And I still have this. They can't move that bishop. I mean, they can, but wherever they move it, I would still have mate. So threatening mate is a stronger move than taking a free piece. So that's what I'm going to try. Okay, that was it. Okay, and they guarded the square this way, which I suppose isn't bad, and they're also threatening my queen. But I can just take that with my knight, right? I know that opens up this diagonal, but my knight's hanging here anyway. So I might as well take it. Oh, they just gave up their queen. And then I would take it, and then what, are they going to check me again? Okay. All right, well, I almost didn't see that pawn move, so I feel like we got lucky again. But that is one reason that I need to work on these. I clearly need work. I have a check, but that is very easily blocked by the pawn. I have a check here, but that is also... Oh, but that threatens the rook. So yeah, I think this check might be better because I'm also threatening the rook. And then if they block with the knight, wouldn't I just take the rook at that point? I'm just not sure. Okay, that was it. And they blocked with their queen. Okay. Now if I take the rook, don't I get my queen trapped in there somehow? I think I've run across these before. I think they trap my queen somehow. Like they move this pawn forward. Yeah, I think if I take the rook right now, they then will move this pawn forward. So I would not be able to come out this way. Oh, but I would be able to take the knight at that point. What if I go in and then they move the knight? Well, then I'd be able to take the pawn and escape this way. Well, not there. I don't know. Should I take the... I think I'm going to take the rook. Oh, that was it. And then they just did that. Okay. I was looking for hidden traps that weren't there in that puzzle, which is going to happen sometimes. So I'm going to try be more careful. And what do we... Oh, is this the smothered mate? I think here we do the double check with the knight, which discovers the check from the queen. That way they can't just take the knight because the queen is also putting the king in check. They can't block the queen because, again, both pieces are putting the king in check, so it has to move. Then I will check down there, which forces the rook to take, and then I will return the knight here for checkmate. Okay. I've seen that one a few times in various forms, so keep a lookout for that one. Oh, and let me know if the sound is bad, if the sound quality is... I know it should be different because I've just gotten a new microphone, but let me know if it doesn't sound good or if there's something wrong with it. And I will try to make corrections, move the mic, change settings or something. Because I can't hear it. I can hear just my unfiltered voice through these headphones, but I cannot hear the output of the mic through the recording program. So yeah, if something is wrong with that, let me know. Okay, here I have a discovered check with my rook if I move my bishop. So where should I move the bishop? There's not very many safe places to move it, although I wouldn't have to worry at that exact moment because the king would be in check. But then when the king moved out of check, then I'd have to move my bishop again. So I'm wondering if it's not bishop to d3 check, but then it's just going to move out of check, isn't it? Or should I try to infiltrate my knight right now? Well, maybe that's what I should do if the king moves to one of these squares. Or is there something else? There is this, which would open up if no, they might not take with the pawn. They could take with the knight. Well, or is it here, threatening the rook and the knight? Is it a fork with a bishop? Sorry, the first thing I looked for was the check, but that doesn't really go anywhere, at least in my mind. But I can threaten the rook and the knight at the same time, and they can't guard both of them. So I'm going to pick up a piece at that point. I think that's what I'm going to do. Oh, that was it. Okay, then I should just win the knight outright. Okay. Well, I have about 5 minutes left. I try to keep these under 30 minutes, both for your sake and mine. I don't think that I do as much learning after a certain point. I think that's true for almost everybody. And with puzzles, it seems like it's about 30 minutes for me. Okay, my bishop is under threat. I do not have any checks besides this one. Although that one threatens a queen trade. If they took, I would take back with check and then get that bishop free. And if they don't take and just move the king out of the way, I could take the bishop, and then if they took my queen back, I would come up a bishop ahead. So that's what I'm going to try. I don't see anything else. Okay, they took my queen, so I take back with check. Okay, well then I'm going to take that with check and then win this bishop, I think. Because then that will leave me a piece ahead. Okay, that one was simple enough, I think. Just it was counting how many attackers and defenders we had on certain squares and doing a couple of even trades, knowing that at the end we would go up a piece. So let's go to another puzzle. All right, they have taken our rook. No, they have threatened our rook, I should say. And we're down a pawn here. I think we should take the rook. This is just my instinct. I haven't calculated, but I think we should take the rook because if they take back, then we will be able to win their other pawn and then come back and pick up this one and be in front of our only remaining pawn. But let me think about this. As I've mentioned in some previous videos, one of the great things about endgame puzzles is how few pieces there are on the board. There are fewer pieces to worry about or to calculate or things to look at. So we can't move this pawn. If we make a king move, like threatening that pawn, they'll just win our rook and we'll be down. So that leaves our rook, basically. And our choices with the rook are to take, as I previously said was my instinct, or to move over with check. I think if we check, they just move over to protect their. So yeah, I think we have to take to draw the king away from this pawn so we can win that pawn. And then we have to win the other pawn. Nothing else makes sense. Okay. Those last few moves, I'm not sure why they were included. I guess there were opportunities to mess up at that point. But they were included and we knew them, so that one was not difficult. Just took us a couple of seconds to reason it out. That's another thing I like about endgame puzzles is that very often just a very simple sequence of reasoning will solve it. This is just out of the opening. Okay. We have a bishop under attack here. They've just moved this. I assume in preparation for castling. I'm not sure if these two bishops are important, but very often things like that are important in the puzzles, even if it's not the first move, it might be the last move. But I think the only way that would end up being a last move is if we could somehow draw this knight out. So I don't know about that. That was a blunder, or a mistake, because puzzles always start with a blunder or a mistake, but I'm trying to figure out what was the mistake about it. Because it couldn't have gone to any of these squares, because our pawns are guarding all of those, and it couldn't have gone anywhere else. So there must have been some other move that black was supposed to make at this point to maintain equality, or if they may have had an advantage before this. But I really don't know. I'm tempted to put our bishop here on g5, but then I think they would take and take back. Or would we take back with the knight? Opening up this bishop here. That's the only thing I can think of, is skewering that bishop to its queen. But because nothing else looks good, right? Wait, we do have a check. Should have looked for checks first. We do have a check. And that guards this spot and threatens the bishop. So the bishops, I think, were significant. If I check, they have a couple of easy different ways to block it. One is with the knight. One is with the queen. What if they block with the queen? They could also block with the pawn. If they block with the pawn, we're taking the bishop, and if they take back, we will take the knight as well. However, if they block with the queen, no, it's taking the bishop first, then the check. Because the knight will take back and nothing is guarding the knight. So now we check and we win the knight. Okay, again, I had to reason that out. Well, I managed, I think, 71 points or something to that effect in this video, and now we've gone over 30 minutes. Hopefully that was helpful to you. I will try to remember, as I have been doing recently, putting the links to these specific puzzles in the description of this video. And again, let me know if there was anything off about the sound for you, if it was cutting out at any point, or if it was too loud or too quiet or anything like that. And as always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.